is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini, and if you are not inspired by the group of authors you are about to hear, I don't know what to tell you. For those of you who think you face too many obstacles to follow your dream, meet Nancy Hale, the epitome of when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Her heartwarming story, The Fairy Rose Princess, was inspired by her disabled daughter, Whitney, whom she's cared for since she was a baby. Nancy, tell us what happened.
Whitney was taken by a babysitter when she was 3 months old, and she's now 28 years old, and I take care of her full time. And she's got severe brain damage.
I don't even know what this is.
Yeah, I was going to say you're going to choke me up with my interview.
Oh my goodness. I am so sorry.
Well, actually, we moved into a bigger home, and I needed a little extra money, so I started a little rose business. I got out in restaurants and clubs and started selling roses, and it took so long to get the roses ready, I started praying over them. Whoever received the rose would receive a blessing, and that's how it turned into a rose with a blessing. And actually, my cousin come up with her little red beetle, and she had a rose on her tag with her name on it, and I just got this picture of this red beetle with a big rose on top with eyelashes, and I just turned it into a business with the car, and then I'm like, wow, this is so cute, it's got to be a book. And the Lord gave me the story, and there's where the book came from. Whitney was the tiniest angel in heaven, and every time the angels needed her, they could never find her. They would search, and guess where they finally found her? In the rose garden. The angel says, Whitney, why are you always in the rose garden? She says, oh, I love roses so much. They're the most beautiful of God's creation. They smell so good, and most of all, I just feel blessed being in the rose garden. And the angel said, Whitney, Jesus needs to see you right away. So Whitney goes to see Jesus, and Jesus said, Whitney, since you love roses so much, you will no longer be known as Whitney. From now on, you will be the Fairy Rose Princess. I'm sending you to Earth to take roses with blessings to everyone you meet. I'm giving you a little red ladybug named Rosie with a big rose on top with eyelashes, and she's going to take you everywhere you need to go to deliver my blessings.
Oh,
And that's the story of the Fairy Rose Princess and Rosie and how they came from heaven. It's a Christian children's book, and it's a series. And all the other books are the adventures that Rosie and the Fairy Rose Princess go on while delivering the Lord's blessings with roses.
Are all the books written?
Just finished the third book in the series. I just finished writing it, and the second book is being published, and I'm hoping that it'll be out by fall.
How are you selling the books?
When it first came out, I'd sold several hundred books just to all my rose customers. You know, I'm lucky to get out to go to the grocery store, if you know what I mean.
Oh, geez.
And, I'm a single parent with my daughter, and I take care of her full-time by myself. Page Publishing they do the expos, and they promote your book for you, so you don't have to actually be there. Signed up to do one in Beijing, China in August, and then in September, I'm going to do the Frankfurt, Germany. That's where the beetle originated from. And so I'm just hoping that, through word of mouth and hopefully my little video that's fixing to come out in the next couple of months, it's just going to explode.
All right, Nancy. Sounds like you're off to a pretty good start. And I really hope you continue to find your way. And speaking of which, that's what Carla Zilka does. She helps people find their way. She's a business growth and culture transformation expert, but not before she went through her own culture transformation training at Berkeley that took her on a 12-year personal journey that led her to write several books. But this one, she says, hits closest to home. It is the happiness process. Become happier in 30 days. Who doesn't want to do that? You just have to get through those 30 days, right?
Right. It's a mindset and it's a mental state. And because it's a mental state, that means that you can create that state. So it's a habit. So you create the habit of being happy. I mean, I have a calendar with lots of different exercises to do because there are actual statistical analysis done with universities, with hospitals and studies about how to increase happiness, which is basically, dopamine, serotonin, all those happiness hormones in the body. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of proven ways to do it. It's really about having that happen on a consistent basis so that those levels never drop, right? So you're always operating at this kind of level of feeling good. And that's how you create sustainable long-term happiness. So It's more about mentally getting into the mindset of creating the habit than it is about doing something once and hoping it sticks, if that makes sense.
Well, what are some of the exercises I'm going to find?
The best demonstration is meditation. There's nothing better for the mind than meditation. In the book, I teach every single exercise that I tell you to do. So there's actual meditations in the book. And I ended up becoming master certified in meditation. There's so many different types. I love just going to YouTube and listening to a guided meditation, or you can listen to certain types of music that have a certain hertz level, which is a frequency that gets sent out, which is very good to calm the mind. It's free. Don't have to go to a class. I actually think that the classes can confuse people more because they make it more complex when it's really very simple, right? It's just about getting into a place by calming the mind where you let go of the stress and you let go of anxiety and you let go of suffering that you create because you're thinking about the past or thinking about the future, and you're not just enjoying the present moment and saying, oh, I feel good right now, right here where I am. So that's the number one thing people can do is meditate, and you don't have to sit. You can do a walking meditation, just get out in nature and walk. You can garden. You can cook. So there's lots of moving meditations people don't even realize. So find a hobby you love. I always say, if you can do it twice a day, which is what I do, that's great. But, you need a minimum of 20 minutes every day to physically change the way the neurons are working in your brain.
Okay.
So that's just scientific. Like, you have to do that. If you want to do that, it's 20 minutes a day consistently for 30 days, and you will see huge change. Exercise. Huge. I don't have to tell you if you exercise or walk or run or whatever, go to the gym, or it, of course, raises the adrenaline, right? It creates adrenaline, which also, in response to the adrenaline, you start to feel the dopamine raise as well. So that's a natural high, right? And so if you do that every day or 3 times a week or whenever you can get it in, even a walk, a brisk walk, actually walking is probably one of the best things you can do. Just walk. And then the final thing is diet. So I've got a whole list of things you shouldn't eat and things you should. So those are like practical things that you can do, because if you start to get into, and I have a lot of affirmations in there, I have a lot of other things that are a little more where you have to study a little bit and you have to do a little more work, like mentally. People don't like to do that. They don't want to have to put together an affirmation or intention. It's easier to say, okay, I'm going to drink water today and no soda. It's easier to do that than it is to sit down and kind of face yourself and say, why am I unhappy? How do I write an affirmation that contradicts that so that I can be happy? Instead of saying I'm not worthy, how do you write an affirmation that says I am worthy? So there's dozens of exercises and tools and things you can do, but the top 3 are really meditation, exercise, and diet.
All right, Carla, I think I feel better already. Thank you. Z Jones tries to find humor in life. She's always kept a journal and often thought about writing a book, but no one was more surprised than she was when bad knee surgery led her down the path to publishing her first book. It is entitled Brief versus Brace.
Years of wear and tear, playing softball, being this little athletic jock that I thought I was, I basically wore my knees out. And so for my 50-something birthday, I was going to have my right knee done because it was bone on bone. Quite painful. I mean, it went smoother than smooth. Our therapist was like, what do you want me to do for you? I said, well, let's do some strengthening and conditioning because I need to have my left knee done, but I want my right knee to be stronger before I have it done. So she said, when do you want to have it done? I said, probably a year from now, 6 months to a year. And she said, okay, we can do that. And 3 months later, I was having it done, basically because one day in physical therapy, my left knee just gave out on me. It was like Jell-O moving back and forth in the knee joint. He said, yeah, you got to have that done. You got to have it done right now.
Oh, God.
Well, the day that they replaced it, that morning, everything went well. It's what happened in the afternoon that literally caused the book to be written. As I was doing these little heel slides before I get up, because they want to see how much movement you have, there was this loud pop. It sounded like a gunshot to me. And I had a drain in my left knee. Well, that drain tube just shot right out of my leg. And I was pretty well juiced up on drugs, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool, watching that tube fly out of your knee. So I figured I just blew a stitch or something. Well, it was the patella tendon and the medial reticulum tendon. Both of them ruptured at the same time.
Why?
Apparently they were weak. It's like the old saying, putting new wine in an old wine bottle skin, it'll cause it to rupture.
You would think they'd look at the tendons and they'd be able to tell if they could handle the new knee.
They do test them, and everything looked fine. I had to have surgery all over again. They had to take the knee out. Then they found that pocket of infection, so they took that out and basically told me no walking on that leg whatsoever for 6 weeks. I was in rehab for 3 months.
So that's when you started writing about this.
And I just started writing my little notes down, just what was happening, and started writing the funny events and just my reaction to everything. And because, they've got you on really potent pain medication, so you get all these weird thoughts going through your head. So I'm just writing everything down.
Now we have Brief versus Brace.
Yes, I am sharing it. I ordered a bunch of bookmarks. And so what I do is, as I go out, I take a bunch of bookmarks with me. And I ask people, if you like to read, if they say yes, I'll ask them, may I give you a free bookmark? And it'll start a conversation. And I will tell them it's a book that I wrote about what I would call a knee surgery gone wild, that I turned so that it's informative but humorous. And various people that have bought the book love it. There are a lot of people out there that, excuse me, that are contemplating knee surgery, and they're like, oh, well, what happens if? Well, this book will help you. And then there are people that have had knee surgery that are like, yeah, I can relate. But as they read it, they're like, oh, I never looked at it like that. And it makes them laugh. It's not to point out that knee surgeries can go bad, but it's to point out there's always humor in everything that happens in our lives. We just have to look for it.
You are so right, Z. Thank you. Kay Godley is almost done high school, and one of her favorite things to do is write. She's posted her writings online, and the one she decided to publish is one of her favorites that just happened to get the most attention. It is entitled The Perfect Duet.
It's about this girl who's shy and insecure, and she meets this boy, and he's not so much shy and insecure. Okay. And they find out through a series of strange circumstances that they can both sing. And it just so happens they both happen to be strapped for cash. He needs it for his family, she needs it for college. So they decide, well, why don't we team up and go on this show? Essentially a singing competition. And and there's all the drama that goes along with that.
A la American Idol and
X Factor and the Got Talents and all that. And they go on this show and they get in the auditions. And then the big bombshell drops of, we have to go out to California to be on this show. It's not just sitting here where we are. We have to go somewhere. And then the big reveal happens of telling the parents, and that's pretty dramatic for the main character, who is Mackenzie. That's very dramatic for her because she didn't tell them she was doing this in the first place. Oh. Not a wise move, but she did it anyway. And so they eventually get out on the show, and they go through making friends and losing friends, and there's an antagonistic character who starts out as a friend and becomes not a friend pretty quickly as the story develops. And there's plots and behind the scene things that happen, and the stunning twist at the end that I don't want to reveal because You know, you got to read the story to find out. But
Okay, fair enough. How do you know what goes on? Do you just imagine what goes on, or do you have a beautiful singing voice and you've been in these situations?
no, it's from my imagination. I love watching those shows like X Factor and The Voice, and I always I watched them and I would imagine like I wonder what it would be like to be on that show, like to like experience that kind of environment. And I would always imagine it must be very stressful and competitive, you know, because you're competing usually for a cash prize or for a record deal and things like that. And competitiveness can bring out the worst in people or it can bring out the best in people. And this story shows both sides of it.
So you posted this, you put this out there already before you turned it into a book, and you said, you know, a lot of people responded to it and liked it. Why? Why do you think?
Partly because they can identify with the insecurities of the characters. That's a huge deal in the story that I know a lot of people it resonated with them, you know. And part of it is, you know, the romance. People love a good love story. That's the way it goes. And I'm one of those people. So, and then of course seeing how the characters develop and change throughout the course of the story is one of those things that I feel is the most important element is where do the characters start and where do they end up? How do they change? How do they become a better person? How did they fall in love, or where did they end up going? How did they use their talents in the story? And that's what this book shows without the two main characters.
Nice job, Kay. I can't believe how young you are. And, you know, you're such a deep thinker. Good luck to you. All right, we have to take a very short break. It's very short, so you stay with us. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you: printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
Okay, we're back on the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Sasha G. Diamante is a truck driver from South Dakota, and boy, she has a lot of time to think. But she says she gets most of her inspiration from her dreams. Her high school English teacher got her into keeping a journal, and then she wrote poems, and in 2014, she started writing books. Now she's got a collection of stories, and her first one published is entitled For the Good of the King.
Well, the first one, For the Good of the King, is about a girl. She's in her teens, and she's in an orphanage, and her sister comes and joins her, and her sister gets adopted, and then things happen where the orphanage is always short of food, so she figures she's going to leave and make her own way because she figured it'd be easier on the orphanage, and just kind of a series of events, she eventually meets the king, and everything just kind of unfolds there, that he wants her and she doesn't want him for what her mother has warned her about. But
who's the king?
That's actually just what they call him. They just call him the king. But he tells her later that his name is Luke, because he has such a bad reputation in the town. And then she finds out that he's not as bad as everyone says, and pretty much through the book, she's trying to make everybody see him for what she sees him for.
So she falls in love with him.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So the moral of the story is basically like the book, just don't read a person by the cover.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
Exactly.
Are there any pieces of your life in this book?
I don't really think so. She comes from basically nothing, all of a sudden gets put in this world of royalty where everybody basically bows to him and does whatever he says because they're so afraid of him. I had a dream, and the story basically just built around the dream.
Okay. Write a book about trucking.
Actually, I have. I've written a book about trucking. That's actually one of them that's going to be in my collection.
Good.
And that one, like I said, I've written a lot of that from different areas in the U.S. because being a truck driver, I know a lot of the U.S. But that one, I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, it's called Casey's Nerves of Steel. It's in my collection, and that one is based on a truck driving woman.
You could be an inspiration to little girls everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And say, you know what,
yeah.
you can grow up and be a truck driver, man.
Yeah, I've actually had. I mean, I don't know how many times I've been at a stop sign or whatever, or in a store, or with my semi truck, and I have had a lot of women come up to me and tell me that they're impressed that
a woman can drive a truck. You got to have nerves of steel out here. And I actually have that. It's Casey's Nerves of Steel. That's in my collection. That's actually in the works of getting ready to go to publish right now.
All right, Sasha, I can't wait. Tim Enclan owns a landscaping business in Orange County, California. Nicole Durling is into IT consulting. Together, they worked for a decade, and they were inspired by their personal friendship and Disney and Pixar movies to write The Mountain Lion and The Bee Girl. So, what's the deal? You guys a couple or what?
We were in a relationship years ago and we wrote the story back then. We are now married to different people. So it was kind of nice to revisit this and get it published and, start selling it for children to read and be encouraged by it. So the idea and the story started about 10 years ago, but over a course of years, we had different experiences. And so it just kind of grew. And then we found an illustrator and we decided to go that route where we wanted it to be a children's book with illustrations. I'll pass the phone to Tim and he can kind of tell you about what the story's about.
Hi, Tim.
Hello there. Story is about a mountain lion and a little honeybee. The mountain lion has a kingdom to take care of, and during a terrible storm, he has to find food and shelter, new food and shelter for the animals of the kingdom. So he goes on a journey to look for a better place to live, and along the way, he runs into a little honeybee who's singing in a tree. He's amazed at how beautiful the bee can sing, and he steps on a twig, and the tree branch breaks and the honeybee becomes startled, turns around and roars at the mountain lion. The mountain lion is surprised because he doesn't know that the honeybee can speak his language. So the two meet, get together and have a great conversation and a friendship, and the honeybee helps the mountain lion find a new kingdom for Timo, the mountain lion, and all of his kingdom, his animals that he takes care of. I think the lesson would be to try and find a better environment.
Probably say the message behind our book, the positive message is let people know about hope and courage and friendship and just being able to endure life's trials and make the best of it.
Have you read this book to kids?
Yes, it's been nice. I have nieces that I've read the book to, and then there's a couple of public schools that I am trying to get into and see. I think I want to start at the public libraries because there's one by my house and I can go in and see if I can just read my book. We're trying to move slowly, but keep moving ahead.
And your ultimate goal is to get this made into a children's movie.
Yeah.
Have you had any luck with that?
We've talked to some Disney, we've had some interaction with some people, but I know that there was this one children's LA book convention where a lot of published authors and movie directors and stuff like that. So we're always looking for those avenues. And I mean, it's just pretty much who you know, I think.
What sets your book apart? What makes it different from other children's books?
I think it's just a new idea how two different animals or two different species can actually form a friendship and a bond and help each other out. Because in our world today, there's just so much. We just wanted to put some positive message out there of love, respect, courage, help, to really know, hey, you may have brown hair and brown eyes, and I have blonde hair and blue eyes, but even though we're different, or you're a man and I'm a woman, we can still help each other and be friends.
Good enough, guys. Thank you. Finally, Ave Rivers is a character development coach for children, and she's written on and off throughout the years, mostly poetry. But when it took her 5 years to get over her divorce, that's when she was inspired to write My Journey, My Path, My Passion.
It's a true story. I am actually the character, and it also includes my family, my kids, and my husband at the time. It's kind of like going through a journey through my divorce and how the children felt about it. And so actually the characters are actually real, but the name's just been changed. But it's a true story.
How long were you married?
38 years.
That's a long time.
Yes, it is.
What happened?
Well, we just kind of grew apart, really. I mean, it wasn't nothing that we didn't know already, but we was trying to fight through it and make it work. So, and then back in the days when I was growing up, when you got pregnant out of wedlock, you had two options. You were either going to move away or you're going to marry the person. So I ended up marrying him. Well, we didn't really know what marriage was about, but we talked through it for all of these years, and it just got to a point where we grew apart from each other. So that's basically what happened.
And the book is about how the church helped you get through it.
How the church helped, how my family helped, how my friends helped, and basically how I prayed through it. And it's a character in the book that actually I met. It was a man that I met, and we only knew each other 9 days and he died. So that comes out of pain too, because he was actually helping me through the process of divorce and everything. And we actually kind of, started liking each other and loving on each other and different things like that. So not love as in making love, but just love to talk to each other, because he also had been through a kind of rough divorce, I guess I would say. And so we kind of met each other through one of the characters in the book. And that's how we started talking to each other. But we kind of fell in love and had decided that we were going to try to get together. But he only lived 9 days after I met him. I mean, he died. So that's kind of part of the book, too. So it's a lot.
Do you have any advice you can offer?
I think the thing is you have to do what's best for you. Sometimes you want to do what's best for the other person, and you want to fight through it and make sure it's not you and all of these kind of things. But the main thing is make sure that you do you and don't lose yourself in the process, because in the process of this, I went through a depression and different things, but I realized that I had to go on with life. And so I think the main thing is don't wallow in trying to satisfy somebody else, but be true to who you are and be obedient to what God has for you to do. If he tells you to do something, then it's best to do it. And I think that's why I fell short in some areas with that, because I was still trying to push through and make everything work. When I knew it, I should have just, because I renewed my vows in 2000. That was one of the reasons I did it. And it still didn't work out. So, that's what I say. Just do what's best for you.
All right, Ave. Do what's best for you. I couldn't agree more. And if you missed anything, download the podcast at 710WOR.com. For the Page Publishing Book Club, I'm Alice Stockton Rossini.